The second Sunday after Pentecost, June the 22nd in the year of our Lord 2025. And this is the reading from the Gospel according to Luke, verses 26 through 29. Then they arrived at the region of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And as he stepped out on shore, a man from the city who had demons met him. For a long time he had not worn any clothes, and he did not live in a house, but in the tombs. And when he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him, shouting at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. Demons on the run. Let me begin acknowledging that every A.M.E. minister marvels at Jesus' ministry because it provides a model for itineracy. We A.M.E. clergy have long noticed that Jesus is always on the move and never overstays his welcome. Too many of us fail to heed his example. On the other hand, we soon discover in following Jesus' travels that he is sometimes even rebuffed upon his very arrival, when and after people have been made aware of him. Some A.M.E. ministers will sometimes find themselves refused by a congregation that found offense at the reports they have heard concerning them. It is most unfortunate, and I fear the stories of Jesus fleeing from hostile crowds offers little consolation. But, being serious now, why would anyone become so offended that Jesus had rescued a man living in the tombs, a neighbor of the dead? You may as well ask why anyone would become enraged to see the exorcism now underway as millions of Americans seek to salvage the tattered remains of our democracy. It too reeks of disease and death, but still, it gladdens me to report there appears a spirit of renewal, of recovery, dare I say it, of redemption. It begins to spring up in city after city, even our very own. You may not have expected this sudden shift in focus from the land of the Gerasenes to the hellscape of American distress in the Trump era, but I cannot but see our country when I see that poor, bedraggled, naked, demon-possessed man who confronts Jesus from the moment he disembarks his boat. The present strains under which our democracy struggles to acquire its footing are growing, mounting in number every day. Some of us had become so disaffected that we refused to watch or even to listen to the news. The clamor of chaos and confusion, confounded, left us despondent, irritable, frustrated, and exhausted. But then, miraculously, in city square after city square, along boulevards, highways, and narrow streets, in cities both large and small, there seems a resistance is growing to master this moment of derangement, madness, and lawlessness. I urge us all to remember that Jesus did not turn from the demoniac. He did not turn him away, nor did he seek a retreat into some fairer day of sunshine and peace. Nor did he seek a rest. Jesus looked that man square in the eye and commanded the unclean spirits to come out of him. Corruption is an unclean spirit, and it inhabits the Oval Office. Yes, I've said it. That once sacred room has become a tomb for free thought, tolerance, and service. It is where these things have gone to die. Come out, thou filthy demon, in the name of the living God. So say I. The cruel exercise of force against our elected officials, against Baraka, MacGyver, Badia, Lander, and Judge Dugan in her own courtroom, is a wretched spirit intended to intimidate everyone into silence and an unholy compliance with an unjust regime of imps, devils, and monsters. God will not have it. So be gone, ye ugly, terrible tyrants. So say I again. Upon Jesus' command, the demons fell at his feet in acknowledgement of his divine power over them. They begged him that he expel them not into the deep abyss from which they had arisen. Some among us today wonder whence all this folly of racism, of selfishness, and hatred of the stranger. When in American history had the seeds of our present cataclysm been planted? How can it be that our young democracy now seems to hang by a slender thread of prayer and nonviolent protest? But we have known all along that the threat to our democracy had been gnawing away at the roots from the very start. Slavery became all too convenient a tool to manufacture wealth. But slavery needed an argument to salve and to spare the conscience of people who prided themselves that no one possessed moral scruples as righteous as their own. And so they nurtured and polished the damnable belief that God had ordained slavery and that God had ranked white folk as racially superior to those they sought to own. The more they believed it, the more they grew comfortable in unquestioning about their supposed divine favor, the more the demon took so fast a hold upon them until their democracy began to smell like a rotting corpse. Americans failed to smell the decay and deluded themselves that the perfume of freedom scented the air. So now, our current administration is afit with twists and turns. It convulses daily to break the law and has even enlisted the law to mangle the law. That is truly demonic. The economy spirals into decline because of Trump's untempered fetish for destructive tariffs. Our neighbors and allies have turned away from us with disdain because Trump has threatened their national sovereignty. Foreign wars are afoot because Trump has not thoughtfully contemplated the better uses of diplomacy to assuage grievance and suspicion among combatants in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, and in Asia. All of these are demons too. Moreover, Trump holds the Republican-led Congress spellbound, bewitched into considering the ratification of a monstrous, ugly bill that will render Americans poorer, sicker, and less safe, and less intelligent. Harvard struggles to protect academic autonomy. Our cultural institutions have been maimed and wounded from fear of appearing to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Law firms have attempted to inoculate themselves against the administration's reprisals by paying for protection as though they were a minor grocer under the thumb of the mob. How many demons did you count in that list? But then, Trump is not alone in the wreckage he is sworn to commit. His factotums and flunkies are everywhere, in and out of government. Elon Musk complains that the problem with America is its propensity to empathy. That man has a demon. Joni Ernst argues glibly that it's all right to take away people's Medicare because we are all gonna die anyway. Yeah, I think the woman may be possessed. Mike Lee jokingly insinuates when a state legislator and her husband are assassinated that this is what you get when you are a Marxist. I see the demon in him as well. How many demons, you ask? Jesus has an answer. He makes the demon pronounce its own name, and the demon responds with a number. The host of them astride that poor man from Gergasa numbered more than 5,000. It would seem that there could be no hope for a man so riddled with so many writhing, defiling, and unclean spirits. But Luke's gospel reports that the power of so many demons was no match. No match for Jesus' remarkable composure, his courage, his authority, and his divine purpose. Upon his command, the demons were compelled to exit their host and to enter the swine that fatted themselves along a precipice. Jesus' word was the last word, and into the drink the pigs did flee, and the pigs did drown. I live by this word, and so I am more than sanguine about our national prospects for the restoration of our democracy, cleansed, purified, insane, once again. I pray that the Spirit of the Christ be upon us all to embody that same composure, courage, authority, and divinely inspired civic purpose. Let us call out the demons by name, each and every one of them. Let us take the authority granted us by our own Constitution to protest the miscreants, the menacing agents of cruelty, the pompous parade of ignorance, the uncharitable avarice of billionaires, the unholy alliance of tyrants and autocrats, both foreign and domestic. In closing, I offer but one living example of how this exorcism works. Danielle Bullock, some of you may have noticed, went to an auto repair store to have her vehicle serviced. She was the only Black person in the waiting area, and to her dismay, people began a discussion about the reason for the mail not running on Thursday, why the collection of garbage did not occur that day, and why were banks and government offices all closed and shuttered. When Juneteenth was mentioned as the federally sanctioned holiday that accounted for all the closures, some of the people smirked. Some professed ignorance without so much as a hint of curiosity. "What's that?" asked one woman. And the offhanded response was, "Oh, I don't know. I think maybe something about reparations." The conversation grew troubling and more than a little disturbing to Miss Bullock, who rose from her seat and directed one of the attendants to drive her car around to the front. She let the proprietor know that she could find somewhere else to have her car serviced without having to bear insults to her dignity. Juneteenth is a national holiday, but those folks at Synergy Car Repair in Wilson, North Carolina had thought their indiscreet conversation concerning it could treat Miss Bullock as though she were invisible. It never even occurred to them that she might be offended by their disdain for a holiday they considered irrelevant to themselves, when in fact that holiday has more to do with demonic possession of white people in the aftermath of the Civil War than it has to do with black people. And perhaps the real tragedy of demon possession is that if we treat other people as though they were invisible to us, we can be certain that we are invisible to ourselves. Thank God, the car repair facility posted the whole exchange on their social media account, thinking that it was insignificant and trivial. They have since discovered that folks looking at the video, both black and white, have decided to call them out for their insensitivity, their callous ignorance. People have posted negative reviews, so much so that the service facility has undergone a sharp decline in business and profits. By her lone example, Miss Bullock provided an opportunity for others to bear witness. We are citizens. Citizens in a democracy, however fragile. Let us too bear witness and exorcise our demons. Let them flee unto perdition. But here is the final caution for all of us in this holy work of salvaging democracy. When the Gerasenes saw the soul-befouled demoniac, clothed in his right mind, scrubbed clean and properly attired, they were more afraid of Jesus than they had been of all those demons. They pleaded with Jesus to leave, and so he did. So, what do you say to that, preacher? I hear you ask the question. I say to you, you better gird up your loins. The work of saving, of cleansing our democracy has only just begun. We are the only ones who can do it. Be of good courage, and we will rout these demons. And remember, all things work together for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Let the church say, Amen.